Welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, founder, and CEO, Shaheen Mazloom. And we're here with an awesome guest today. She's an entrepreneur, author, spiritual coach, you name it. Stacey Brown, how you doing today, Stacey?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, doing great. Looking forward to talking to you today. So, man, we've had a lot of different people on this podcast, but I gotta say it's always very similar, and there's always massive difference. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you. For those out there that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so I was a hairdresser for 20 years and was built myself really successfully as a single mom with 3 little kids.
Wow.
Crazy story. And I shifted. I had a massive pivot in my life. And I'm now still self-employed, but I recently published my first book last year, and I am an intuitive. I do readings for people from around the world, and I also do spiritual coaching and mentorship. So I help people who are going through a spiritual awakening.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, such is life, right? We've always got some kind of crazy thing that happens. Everybody's got their stuff, their baggage. We all need help with that. I don't care who you are. So explain a little bit about, so you built did you have a hair salon?
I did. I owned my own
Okay.
salon. Yeah. And I was very, very successful at doing that. And as
What got you into that, if you don't mind? Like, my mom learned how to cut hair because our hair, like, we had, there was 3 of us and all of our hair grew so fast. She's like, I got to learn how to cut hair.
yeah.
And that's how she got into it. Like, how did you get into that?
So for me, it was just a dream. I grew
Yeah.
up just loving doing hair. I mean, I was the girl who didn't play with the dolls. I did their hair.
Did their hair, right?
And I had 3 little kids and decided that I wanted to go to school for cosmetology. So I went to school with 3 kids as a single mom, put myself
Wow.
through beauty school. Yeah. And worked my butt off to build a really successful career. And I loved it. And I still love it. It's just, it doesn't fit anymore.
Right. Right. So what happened? You built this great business. Everything's going great. Then all of a sudden you make this shift. Like, what made that shift happen?
So, Shaheen, we never know like when our kids are going to go through something, right? Like
Yeah.
we raise our kids, we do the best we can. We have no idea what's going to happen in that. And in January of 2019, my 17-year-old son was struggling with mental health and substance abuse issues.
Mm.
And he overdosed in our home and survived.
Wow.
And then 4 months later, he made the decision to get in his car and try to take his own life. So he ran his car into a tree at 100 miles an hour, and he was ravaged from head to toe. We were having conversations with the doctors about donating his organs and
Right.
what that was going to look like. It was really serious. And
Yeah.
the crazy part about it is, if that wasn't crazy enough, I had some of the most mind-blowing spiritual encounters while we were in the hospital with him. And one of them was an experience where I intuitively diagnosed what was wrong with him and saved his life.
Wow.
And so I walked away from those experiences. My son is actually thriving now. I want to say
That's
that to everyone.
awesome.
He actually is 22 and he helps people who are suffering with mental health and addiction.
I love that. I
At,
love
20
that.
at 22 years old, he owns 2 homes, and both of them are sober living facilities. So
I gotta tell you, there is no better business to be in, not just financially, but like rewarding. I mean, I love that business. I'm telling you, that's what I want to do after I'm done saving all the businesses in the world. Like, that's where I want to go. It's an amazing business to be in. One of my employees has a few sober living homes. And
yeah,
yeah, she loves
it's
it.
amazing. And he's done
That's
really, really
awesome.
well.
Good for
Yeah.
him.
But through that time, the experiences I had were so profound and so life-changing
Right.
that I recognized that I had been hiding who I was. I
Right.
spent 20 years putting my hands on people and sensing what they were going through. I knew if somebody was having a fight with their husband the night before. I knew if somebody was sick, and I would just guide the conversation in that direction.
Right.
But once I saw what my son was going through, it made me decide to live my truth. And so I started
Right.
doing readings for people really successfully. And then from there, I wrote my book telling the story of my son and what happened and what those encounters were like. And now it has flourished into this incredible business where I'm literally working with people from around the world.
That's awesome. Wow,
It
that
is.
is so cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. It's
it's
kind of crazy.
it.
When I tell people what I do, I feel like it sounds crazy, right? Like I'm like, well, I'm intuitive.
You got to explain it.
Yeah, you have
Yeah,
to
you. Yeah, you got to explain. It's not what you can't do with the elevator pitch with
no,
something like that. They're like,
no.
this lady speaks to ghosts.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I can't do that. And then, to say like I help people who are going through a spiritual awakening is kind of a strange thing to say too. But I think something that came out of COVID and the pandemic was that people started being more introspective,
Oh
right?
yeah.
People really felt the shift in the world and that it was time to make a change. And I think a lot of people are leaning more towards spirituality than they are religion.
100%.
And yet they don't know what that means. They don't know what
Hmm.
to do with it. And so I get to help people on their journey. And I have clients right now from around the world: Malaysia, Singapore, India,
Wow.
Canada, around the States. I mean, it's crazy how it's just blown up. And I think one of the myths that I want to debunk is the idea that you can't have a successful spiritual business. And what I have found is I've been able to break that paradigm and say, no,
Do people actually think you can't have a
I,
successful spiritual
I think
business?
so. I think so.
Have you ever seen what the preacher drives? He's got a nicer car than 99% of people. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of money in spirituality.
Yeah, there really is. And it's been something that has just grown into something I would have never expected. And
Yeah,
it's taken me, I've been traveling a lot. I'm actually leaving in a week and a half for the UK, and I'm going to be staying there for a month.
awesome. Have
Yeah.
you been to the UK before?
I've been there 9 times
Okay,
in
yes,
two
that's where I was born and raised.
Yeah, in 2 years, I've been there 9 times, and I'm going
That's
back,
awesome.
and I'm staying for a month. Yeah.
That's
So,
cool.
yeah,
So how did this business? Did this start from the book? Was that the first thing that kind of?
no,
How did you get started in this? Because you bring up a great point, and I've been having a lot of conversations with recently with people that are they want to start a business, but they don't know what to start. They're like, I don't have any set skills, or I don't have any set passions, but they're thinking about business as a physical product, like I can't sell washing machines or TVs or whatever, right? And like you said, most people wouldn't even think that you could create a business by being intuitive,
yeah.
right? Like my fiance, I like she has a bunch of businesses, but none of them are her true calling. Like, and so I'm trying to push her every day because I know what she's passionate about. I know what she's great at, and it's scary to go into because you're like, I know these businesses work. I'm doing these businesses. I'm making great money. They're successful, but going into your true calling as a business, it's terrifying. How did you get over that hump to be able to, one, go ahead and just do it? And how did you get started?
So when I initially started, I would do hair and I would guide clients in the direction of, is this something you believe in? And if they did, I would say, I do readings. So I just kind of started dabbling. Okay.
Okay. So you
And
started small,
just
tested the market a bit.
Yeah. And then in the meantime, I got certified as a life purpose life coach, and I got certified in Reiki healing. And I was kind of
I love
exploring.
Reiki.
I love Reiki.
Most of my friends would probably never believe me, but I've done Reiki quite a few times
That's
and
awesome.
I love it. I believe in it wholeheartedly. Like the first time I did it, I was going through something very tough. It's actually why I started this business was after a Reiki session.
Really?
Yeah, like I was going through the toughest breakup of my life. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Like I was dead. I couldn't see a future.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm willing to try anything. And one of my friends is a Reiki coach. I always thought she was crazy. I'm like, you know what? Come on over, do your thing, like fix me,
So,
And
so what happened?
well, I just had like a spiritual moment, like, and I just moved on. Like I'm like, you know what? I just got to stay busy. I got to focus on me. Let's go. And it just kind of grew from there. Like I just had to get out of my own way, and it was a really like I can't explain it. Like I'm
There's
telling
no
you,
words.
I try to. There's no words to explain it until you've actually felt it, witnessed it. Like I've had all kinds of crazy spiritual things happen over the years, but that was probably the biggest impact. I mean, I had one with my fiance's dad the day I proposed, and I'd never met the man. He died before we started
Wow.
dating. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I could talk about spirituality forever. But so you started testing the market,
Yeah.
talking to people, doing readings,
Yeah.
and then you noticed there was a big need.
Yeah. I noticed there was a need, and I noticed that people were captivated by the process.
Yeah.
And I also felt liberated because I feel like I kind of came out of the spiritual closet.
Right.
You know, like I was finally saying, like, this is who I am and this is what I can do. I've been
Right.
this way my whole life, but I'd never really talked about it. So it started with that.
Right.
And then everything happened with my son. And when everything happened with my son, I stopped working and became his primary caregiver.
So
So
you got certified before this stuff happened with your son.
yeah,
Crazy how that happens, right?
it was really crazy.
That's wild.
It was very much divinely led. But then
Oh yeah.
when everything happened with him, I stopped doing hair and I was taking
Right.
care of him. And so during that time, I was exploring even deeper, right? Then the pandemic hit. And shortly after the pandemic, my husband and I decided to divorce.
Right.
And so I left the marital home and my salon was in my home.
Oh wow.
So when I left my home, I left my business.
Right.
And I had a decision to make. I could either play it safe and go do hair,
Right.
or I could freaking risk it all
Yeah.
and pursue my dream. And I chose to pursue my dream.
Right.
And so, as a single mom, again, I navigated my way through using the business techniques that I had used to build my hair business with referrals, etc., into a spiritual business. And in that time, I met a lot of people who kind of helped me, guide me. You know, I had no idea about building a website. I had no idea
Right.
about branding myself. I had no idea about how to do a lot of things that I was going to be expected to do. And
Yeah. I mean, because it's different now. Starting a business 20 years ago versus starting a business now in the social media digital age, it's a completely different launch, you know? Like, yeah. It is so different.
Yes. And the thing is like, as a hairdresser, and I was talking to a friend about this today, I had no clue how to even use a computer, Shaheen. I could send an email.
Right.
But like, that's about it. And now I do most of my work virtually because I'm seeing people from around the world. So I had to learn a whole new skill set to make this work.
Yeah.
You know, it was scary. It was really scary, but it has been such an incredible journey. And I have traveled to a lot of different places and I've met a lot of amazing people. And I now fill my days with helping people who are going through some sort of process like I did.
Right.
It might not be the loss of a child or
right. And I mean, everybody's, you know, but everybody's situation is what they can handle, right? So one thing my parents instilled in me at a young age, they always told me that God will never give you more than you can handle. And I remember, you know, like I told you earlier, I went through this hurricane, right? It was a breakup. It wasn't my kid almost dying you know what I mean? Like everybody's hurricane is different, but like what you went through, you know, it's crazy. Like I always felt really embarrassed about my like bottom. You know, that was my bottom, going through a heartbreak where I couldn't see the future, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. And, you know, you've got some people that have like lost their whole family in a horrific car accident and like, but, you know, I tell everybody, you know, everybody has stuff they're going through and some are a lot more severe than others, but we're all built differently mentally, right? Like I know I would never survive. Like if I had kids and one, you know, going through what you went through, there's no way I would be able to get out of that. No way. God wouldn't do that to me. You know, it's amazing what you've done. Would you say the number one thing about what you're doing is that it's you feel that you were put on this planet to do this?
Yes. I feel that I am doing what I was meant to do. I just got another message this morning from someone who's read my book not once but twice and
Wow.
said that she can't put it down. And getting those messages from people, I mean, I ran a marathon at a certain point, and I ran 26.2 miles. It was the
Wow.
hardest physical challenge I've ever had. But
I
the
bet.
hardest mental and emotional challenge I've ever had was writing my book and reliving all
Yeah,
that
that
stuff.
trauma.
And
Yeah.
the thing is that when you're writing a book, you have to engage the reader in all their senses. So you have to put yourself back in the hospital where you were when these things were happening. And you have to tell it play by play, and you have to bring the reader into the experience. And for
Yeah.
me, that was gut wrenching. But I knew that the way that I make peace with all this, okay, is, and this is like my little secret sauce here. The way that I make sense of all this is that the God that I believe in would not allow someone to suffer without a bigger purpose.
Right.
So the way I make sense of it is that this all happened because we were meant to use the story to help as many people as possible.
100%. It's the exact same as everything happens for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like every single bad thing that's ever happened, if you really look back on your life, I don't care who you are, it led to something better,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or if it hasn't yet, it will, right? Like I can go through every single downturn in my business and my life, and it always led to better.
Mm-hmm.
It's all part of God's plan or the divine plan or whatever you want to believe in. There's a plan, and obviously we have a say in it, right? We still got to do our part, but yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's crazy how that works, right? Like these things happen, and then it just leads to the next step, and then
Yeah.
that happens, and that takes you somewhere else.
And my life looks not a damn thing like it did 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Like my life looks totally different now. But the beautiful thing about it is I get to help people on a deeper scale. I
Yeah.
loved being behind the chair and making people look and feel good. I loved that. But this is like that on
Times
steroids.
10. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when you get like I've been working with a client who is leaving a religion, an organized religion that she's been in for 57 years, and she's
Wow.
trying to navigate that. I'm dealing with
Yeah.
a husband and wife who are potentially going to divorce, and dealing with infidelity and what that
Mm.
looks like. It's incredible, the experiences that I'm having now and the way that I get to help people. And
Yeah.
it has lit a fire in me to want to grow this brand and build it even more.
Right.
I do it in a variety of ways. I'm really active on social media.
That's awesome.
I get on like Instagram lives and I pull cards for people and kind of give them a taste of what I can do. And
That's
then
cool.
through that experience, I then get the one-on-one clients that I work with, usually over the course of several months. And I meet with them weekly, and I give them action steps to creating the life that they want. But
Nice.
I had to go through it myself first,
Oh yeah.
right? You can't,
Yep.
you have to practice what you preach in this business.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not one of those.
I think in any business, really, like I actually just did a video the other day about how, like, why am I qualified to advise business owners,
Mhm.
right? And like, if I hadn't used all the products that we sell, we wouldn't be as successful as we are, right? There's plenty of people out there that have never used their own products or whatever, sure, but you can't honestly portray what you're trying to and do it successfully unless you really dove in on your own products and practice what you preach.
Yes,
I
100%.
agree 100%.
Yeah, it's the only way to do it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people try to fake it till they make it, but when it comes to a spiritual business,
Oh, you can't.
you can't fake
Nah,
it.
they can read right through it.
Right. And I think that's what's been the most powerful, is a lot of what I'm teaching is the survival guide that I used to get me out of rock bottom when everything happened with my son.
Right.
Right? Those very steps that I talk about, teach people, those are the things that were my survival guide. And now I get to make money off of my survival guide, which is crazy.
Right.
Like you wouldn't think that the dark.
I know, it almost makes you feel guilty. Like when you're making money by helping people and doing something that makes you feel so good, it's like, man, I would do this for free. it's not really realistic, right? But it's, it is a beautiful thing. I have the same thing with my business. Like, I know I was put on this earth to help businesses. I love what I do. And I get to make money while doing it. Like, there really is nothing better. So I got a question for all those people out there. There's so many people out there that could be doing so much more for themselves and their family by following their passion, taking that leap of faith, right? What advice do you have for those people out there to put it all on the line and just go for it?
Okay, so I will say my business strategy in hair is how I did this. And what I mean is, when you want to do something that you've never done before, you've got to go out there and find someone who is doing what you want to be doing and get in close to them and learn how they're doing it. And then take those things and make them your own and turn it into your own brand. That's exactly what I did. I would get up close to the hairdresser that everybody wanted, and I would see, okay, how is she doing this? How is she getting clients in her chair? What approach is she using? What's her customer service like? And I would mimic all of those things. I did the same thing when it came to this. I started researching other spiritual people who had made a business of it and done it successfully. And I got in close to them and watched what they were doing, and I made notes. So my friends, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Nope.
You're crazy if you think you need to do it that way. You're making it harder on yourself. Find the people who are successfully executing what you want to do. Customize it your own way, right? Put your own flair on it, your own flavor, and then package it and sell it. It's that easy.
Well, 100%. And especially now with social media, there's just no excuse. People are like, oh, well, I don't know anybody that's doing what I want to do. Do a simple Google search. You can find them, right? You can there's so many amazing people out there literally putting out free content every day on every single platform. A good friend of mine, do you know who Gary Cox is by chance?
Yes.
So, great friend of mine. He is, man, honestly, as far as a business with spirituality goes, he's the first person I'd ever experienced that with. We're in the Bahamas together with Paul Getter, and him and my fiance had this amazing conversation. And that's when I really realized, I'm like, man, it is a huge business. And I started thinking, I'm like, well, yeah, religion is a business too. And like, it's just, it's amazing, man. Like, it's exciting to see where your journey takes you. You've only done the one book so far, right?
I've only done one book so far.
And what's the book called, and where can people find it?
Okay, so it's on Amazon and Audible, and it's called Journey to Soul Center: Discovering the Gift of Surrender. Journey to Soul Center. Discovering the Gift of Surrender. Yep. And it's crazy because I am naturally a very introverted person, but I had a vision for the book that came to me when I was on my way to Florida. And I saw this vision, and I was with two of my friends, and I was like, I saw this vision of me in a white dress on the beach. And literally the cover was taken with an iPhone. You'll never believe it when you see the cover. Taken with an iPhone, and it's me in a white dress on the beach, right? That's taken awesome. With an iPhone. Like, how crazy is that? You can do it literally. I mean, all these people hire photographers for different things. Everybody talks about how amazing our engagement photos were. I literally put an iPhone on a tripod, and we just did different poses on a video, and I screenshotted the pictures out of it. Right. That was it. It's so easy to do content and pictures and all this stuff. Like my first book, same thing. I did it on my computer. I took my own picture. I didn't pay some big publishing house. And, I just paid a guy to format it into a book. I uploaded it onto Amazon myself. I mean, it's so easy to do this stuff nowadays. You just got to do it. You just have to. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I would want to convey to people is if there is something that your heart is telling you want to do, you've got to freaking chase it. Yeah. You've got to chase it. And I also think that the universe aligns very beautifully when there's something that we're meant to do. Because honestly, if somebody, like I was a hairdresser in a rural town, okay, built my own business out of my home. And now I'm traveling internationally and helping people from around the world.
It's funny. I can see by your facial expression, like it almost doesn't seem, it almost doesn't make sense to you still.
It still it doesn't. It blows my mind. Like when I'm on a call with somebody in Australia
Right.
and I was a hairdresser, like it's like it blows my mind. But it has been it's been the most challenging and the most beautiful experience of my life.
No. Yeah, it's crazy. The most meaningful and amazing things that happen in our life are always the hardest.
Absolutely.
Always. Like, even if it's something you've gone through, if it's a business you're building, everything worth it comes hard. I don't know why. It's just the way it is.
That's so true. I also think though that it makes us appreciate it when it does
Oh, yeah.
happen. And I think that's part of the thing is like, if it came to you easy, would you really treasure it as much as you do when you've had to work
Yeah.
hard for it? Right.
Yeah. When you put your blood, sweat, and tears into something, it's like, man, look what I did. I
Yeah.
made it through. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've literally given up my old life, my marriage, my home, my business. I
Yeah.
gave all of that up to pursue this. And, there are times where it's scary for sure. There are
Right.
times where I think, am I enough? Am I doing this the way that I'm supposed to be doing it? I
Right.
definitely still have self-doubt that creeps in. I think
Oh yeah.
that
I think business owners are the most insecure people out there. We all have insecurities. I don't care who you are, how confident you're. The motivational speaker that you watch all the time on Instagram,
yeah,
that person is more insecure than you, most likely. It's just the way we're built
yeah,
because we're perfectionists. We want to be the best.
yes,
That's why we are who we are.
yeah,
And so we always are going to have that self-doubt, right? And then when you have that self-doubt, isn't it crazy how when you start to have that self-doubt, you'll get a review or a message or an email where it's like, bam, nope, no more self-doubt.
That is so true. That is so true. Like I
Yeah.
have moments where I'm like, like, is the book reaching enough people? Like, is there something else I should be doing? And then I'll get another random message like
Yeah.
today where somebody's like, I've listened to it twice and I couldn't stop listening, or I was
Yeah.
captivated or whatever. And you're like, okay, I'm doing what I'm meant to do. This is the
Yep.
universe validating
Oh,
that I'm on
100%.
the path, right? Like this is the space
Yeah.
I'm meant to be in. I think
Yeah.
the other thing that,
People just have to listen to it.
yeah,
I think a lot of the time, some people when they get in that headspace of doubting themselves or doubting what they're doing, they don't always see the signs. They're not always paying attention to the signs. Like there's constantly going to be signs, But if you're not looking for it, if you're not really, searching for those signs and open minded for those things that constantly show you and validate you, you're gonna miss them. Right? Like those are the people that don't make it. Those are the people that give up.
yeah.
Is they didn't really see what was right in front of them.
Yeah. And I think the most powerful thing is I am giving my children an example of a mom who went after what she wanted.
Yeah.
And I want my kids to have the best version of me possible.
100%.
And I feel like they're getting that, but it's also inspiring them to
Yeah.
not settle and to do what
Exactly.
they dream of doing. And
Yeah.
I don't know what more I could do. I mean, there was definitely a point where I was like, I am not cut out for motherhood when I was pregnant. So
I feel like every parent has those days.
it was insane. But I look at what I'm building now, and my little girl is still, my youngest is 10. And last year she had to write and publish her own book in the school. Like they did this
Wow.
like a little publishing process.
That's
And
cool.
in the dedication of the book, she said, I'm doing this because my mommy did it and I want to be like her.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, that is exactly why I'm doing this, because I'm
Yeah.
showing my kids that they can make their dreams, their vision a reality.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just that. Like you built this incredible life, and you literally reinvented yourself.
Yes.
Just a few years ago.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, it's never too late to restart. Like you can always, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, it doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 40, 50 years.
Yep.
right? It does not matter. You can literally start your life over at any point in time if you are not happy.
Yep.
And people have got to realize that, right? Like, if you're miserable, stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Rebuild yourself. You can always restart. It doesn't matter. I mean, what was it? Warren Buffett didn't become a millionaire until he was in his 60s.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And now he's one of the richest people in the world. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, try not to wait till you're 60 to start rebuilding yourself, but you know what I mean?
Right. But you can do it at any time. I think that's what's
Yeah.
important for people to know is like, as long as you are still breathing,
Yeah.
you have the opportunity to reinvent yourself, to go a little deeper in your journey, to get to understand yourself a little bit more, to change career paths, to change your life. Like it
Yeah.
really is up to you. And I think sometimes we get very narrow minded in thinking that this is it. Is this all there
Yeah.
is to life? And if
Yeah.
you're in that place where you're thinking, is this it? Then maybe it's time to get somebody like me in your life to say, you know what, I want to change things, because you've got to start with yourself before you
Yeah.
start with your environment and the people around you.
1,000%. 1,000%. If I didn't learn who I was and what I really wanted, there's no way I would have been able to, one, get through the startup process of this business, but really take it to where it is. Like, you're 100% right. It starts with you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got some stuff going on, before you start trying to build this incredible life, you got to handle that stuff first, right? Like, it's crazy. So before me and my fiance met, she went through a bad breakup. She lost her dad, which was a whole nother animal. I went through a horrible breakup, but like, we both had been around each other a bunch of times, but both of us still hadn't dealt with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we met when we were done dealing with all that stuff. The crazy part is we found out we had been in the same place at the same time so many times over the years. And when we met, we never recognized each other. Like, I've never seen that girl a day in my life. Same thing with her to me. And it's because we weren't supposed to meet until we dealt with that stuff.
100%.
Because until you deal with that stuff, nothing's going to work.
No.
You got to get that inside stuff out. And a lot of times we don't even know what that stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I learned some stuff that I was dealing with. I didn't even know I was dealing with the first time I spoke with Gary Cox. Like, same with the first time I did Reiki. Like, I didn't even realize I had this stuff with my parents or with my brother. Like, you know, it's wild. A lot of times people don't, because they don't think deeply enough about this stuff. So I agree. I think, you know, talking to somebody that's intuitive like you, that's spiritual, that has these, you know, certifications to be able to, you know, work on that stuff with you is huge and vital, especially.
Yeah. I think sometimes we can't see things when we're in it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes somebody on the outside looking in to help bring you into a space of awareness, right?
100%.
We can get in a rut. We can start with habits that we've incorporated that we don't even realize we've picked up. And then the other thing is, what have you been through previously in your life, right? Like, did your parents divorce? Did they stay together? I mean, like, for me, my dad was a narcissist. You know, there were things that I needed to learn about the dynamic that I had grown up with and how that wasn't serving me anymore. Staying in that place and doing things the way they had been done just because I was brought up that way was all I knew. And it took for me somebody coming into my life to show me things in a different light. Right. And now I get to do that with other people. And I say I get to do it because that's really how I feel. I'm like, I am so blessed that I get to do this work. How crazy is that?
Yeah. I mean, and it's sad to say, most people will never know that feeling. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's what, 99% of people wake up every day dreading to go to work or go to their business or whatever. And it's a shame because, you know, at any point in time, you can really do something about it. You know, this day and age, there's so many resources, free resources out there to be able to do anything, to learn anything, to copy anything. I mean, it's, you know, I feel bad for those people that just don't do anything about it. And most of the time it's because they haven't dealt with that stuff on the inside.
It's so true.
So if you're dealing with shit, reach out to Stacey.
Which, I mean, I love dealing with people's shit. It's crazy, but people come to me with some really heavy stuff. And, you know, I have a client right now who was unfaithful in his marriage, and he's trying to decide what he's going to do. Is he going to stay or is he going to go? And I think what people don't realize is, when he was kind of coming to me in the session to tell me this stuff, he was concerned that I was going to be like, you've got to stay or you've got, but that's not my role. My
Right.
role isn't to tell you what to do. My
Right.
road is to
Just to
guide
help you
you
figure, to
help
help
to
you
figure
figure
it
it
out,
out.
right?
Yeah.
Because the thing is, at the end of the day, it's your personal decision what you do with your life.
Right.
My whole job is just to give you a different vantage point, right? And then allow you to be guided to your own answers. And
Yep.
that's what I love about what I do, is that I get to hold space for people, walk through these dark situations with them and help them come out the other side. Like, what is your action plan? Like,
Right.
now this is your situation. What are you going to do about it?
That's
Right?
awesome.
And that's a really powerful place to be, to know that
Right.
I get to help people in that way. And it's been mind blowing, the people who have come into my life. I can't believe that something that nearly killed me brought me to a place where I get to help other people. Because
Yeah.
in the darkest hour, I really thought that this was going to take me down. I
Yeah.
really did. And I think for a little while it did. I
Right.
really do. And now I look at it and I'm like, I can't,
Man, I came out the other side.
yeah, can't, I can't ignore the fact that, like, when people say like they wish something bad never happened, you know what I
Right.
mean? When they're like, I wish I never went through that. I,
Yeah.
I can't even say that, because
Right.
had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be where I am right now.
A
And
hundred
where,
percent.
and where,
And I think everybody eventually should get to that point.
Mhm.
I mean, it's the same thing with me. I mean, everybody I know, at least everybody successful that I know, and when they came out the other side, they're glad all that stuff happened. I mean, when you're in it, obviously you're not happy this is happening,
Yeah.
right? But once you come out the other side, you realize those things brought you to where you're at today. There's just so many crazy stories out there of what people have gone through, and then what that led them to do. I mean, hell, I think Gary Cox might be one of the craziest one. Born in a cult, father gets murdered. I mean, it was just like the woman had his kid, found out he wasn't his kid. I mean, it like all this stuff happened in like a few months span, like, and it's just like it's crazy what people go through, and it's you can either let it beat you down or you can use it as fuel to make a difference.
I
And
think that's so powerful what you just said.
yeah,
You can either let it take you down, or
yeah,
you can use it as the fuel to
to
make a
fuel your
difference.
fire, 100.
Yes.
percent
And
Yep.
I know that there are people facing challenges who are going to listen to this podcast episode and be like, I don't know how to get through this. Sometimes you don't know how to get through it on your own. I know
Yep.
for me, I had to lean into people in my life to
Yep.
help me on the journey.
Oh
And
yeah.
even now, right, I have those people in place that I can lean into. I don't necessarily believe that we're meant to figure it out alone. I really
No.
don't. And I think a lot of people do
No.
think that, like, oh, I can't
Right.
do about this.
Oh, it's my problem.
Yes.
I know me. And you can keep trying all you want to handle it by yourself, but it's not that simple most of the time.
It's not. And I go back to the same thing. You're not the first person to go through a divorce. You're not the
Right.
first person to go through a loss or a
You ain't
death.
gonna be the
You're
last.
not going to be the last. So there are people out there who have overcome these circumstances, and you can stay in it. You can stay in the mess of pain. You can live in that space. A lot of people do. But
Yep.
the thing is, healing is hard and staying in your shit is hard. Pick your hard,
Yeah.
right?
Which hard do you want?
Right. I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, is it challenging? Yes.
Yeah.
But it's also challenging to stay miserable and stuck in that space. And the thing is, by the time everything had happened with my son, I ended up having a surgery, and the surgery was botched. And I
Mm.
laid in bed for 3 months, like, unable to function. And the doctors were saying to
Jesus.
me, oh, you're just depressed about what happened to your son. And I was like, no, there's something wrong. I ended up having to have a second surgery. At that point, I was at rock bottom. Okay. I had lost my physical health. I was worried about losing my son mentally, emotionally.
Right.
I was just done. And
Jeez.
at that point, it came into my awareness that I had responsibility for one thing in all of that, and I had lost control of it, and it was me. That was
Yep.
the one thing that I had control of. And that's when I decided, enough. I am going to figure out how to get through this, how to heal, and how I'm going to make an impact. This had to have been with some greater purpose that
Yep.
was meant to lead me in this direction. So, what am I going to do about it? And that's
Yep.
when I really started to come into understanding my gifts and abilities,
Yep.
how I wanted to use them, and using a lot of the business tactics that I had used to build my beauty business into something totally different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you bring a great point. You know, at the end of the day, the only thing you can control is yourself. Shit is constantly going to be thrown at you. It's the way life is. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire. It doesn't matter if you're homeless. It doesn't matter if you got 3 kids, no kids, 1 wife, 2 wives, no wives. It does not matter. Shit is constantly going to hit the fan. And it's really the only thing you can control is how you react to it. And that's it.
That's it.
Right? You can't stop it from coming. You can't. It's gonna always come, no matter what part of life you're in. And if we can learn through people like you, you know, how to deal with them when it happens, it's so much easier to deal with.
Yes.
You know, so I'm gonna put all your you know, your social medias, website, the link to your book, all that stuff in the description so people can follow you and reach out to you.
Okay.
Man, it's been great talking to you, Stacey. It's amazing that you're doing the smile, just the smile on your face. Like, if you can't see this video, go on our YouTube and watch the video, because Stacey, you can tell just by looking at her face that she's doing what she loves and what she's meant to be doing. I love that.
Thank you. It's really something incredible. And I think when I talk about it, I get even more excited about it, because most of it's
Right.
work, right? I'm like
Yeah.
doing the work and I'm helping people. But when I get to talk about what I do, it just lights my fire. And
Yeah.
my greatest hope is that whoever's listening to this podcast gets inspired to pursue whatever that thing is that your heart is telling you you're put on this earth to do. And if you don't know what that thing is yet, start exploring it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome, Stacey. I can't wait to have you on again. I wish you all the best.